Eyes in the skies. This mountainous terrain is Kosovo, and a quarter of a century ago, it was the most dangerous place on Earth. In 1999, Kosovo was ravaged by war. 25 years on, Nato maintains its peace and security presence. That involves personnel from the British Army, and right now, it's the turn of the 1st Battalion, the Royal Yorkshire Regiment. The ramifications of the conflict are still felt today. That's why NATO has such a visible presence here all these years on. The history of the war and the need for boots on the ground now isn't lost on the Royal York soldiers, even though most of them are too young to remember the war itself. They patrol Kosovo in vehicles and on foot diligently, a visible presence that's designed to reassure, deter and promote peace.
The Strategic Reserve Force provides the Commander KFOR the opportunity and flexibility to surge into an area. Right now, we're supporting the safe and secure environment and freedom of movement for all ethnicities around Kosovo by providing greater depth of patrolling across all of the areas along the administrative boundary line.
The Kosovo War began after decades of tension between the ethnic Albanian population of Kosovo and the Serbian authorities under its leader, Slobodan Milosevic. In the mid-1990s, faced with direct rule by Belgrade, the Kosovo Liberation Army formed and began to fight back. Milosevic responded with force, targeting civilians and committing genocide. It led to international outrage and a lengthy 78-day-long bombing campaign by NATO.
The war in Kosovo started in 98-99 over acts of horrible atrocities. So Milosevic started the operation of ethnic cleansing. Western countries, even Russia and others, were trying to impose a peace solution. Unfortunately, Milosevic was not a person that wanted to do a peace deal, and he increased the violence with some really gruesome types of attacks against the civilian population. Children were slaughtered, women were raped. This is really a very intensive burst of tremendous violence.
It was the intensity of the NATO bombing campaign that led to the withdrawal of Serbian forces from Kosovo and the establishing of a peacekeeping force which continues to this day. BFBS Forces News joined KFOR patrols in the north of Kosovo. It's an area known for smuggling activities. Tensions remain between the locals on both sides of the border.
So we're in the northern part of Kosovo, like you see the mountain range. There's the ABL at the end of the day. The ABL is only a few hundred metres away from us right now.
And so, ABL is?
The administrative borderline.
And tell me about that, because we don't call it a border, do we? We call it the ABL.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're trying to stay neutral, a neutral side between the Kosovans, the Serbians and whatever's going on with them at the moment. We're here to create a safe and secure environment for the people in Kosovo and the people of Kosovo. So,
by foot, we reached some wooden buildings where a recent US patrol uncovered a cache of weapons. Unexpectedly, a vehicle turns up at the site. Some of the soldiers remark that the man is the owner of the buildings, but he doesn't speak English, and after some strained chit-chat, the soldiers take their leave.
They're all smuggling huts in there. They've been caught before, so we tend to keep an eye on them. A bit convenient, I think, that we're in the area and they've drove up, especially to those two cabins as well. So we know that they've been used for smuggling before. Again, like we said, we've had intel on that they're being used again. So it's good to us let them know that we're in the area still. They've seen us. We've made our presence aware. We're going to let them know that we're here to stay at the end of the day. So if they do want to try and do any small smuggling, we'll end up catching them.
KFOR personnel operate under strict guidelines. Soldiers are prevented from entering buildings, even if they suspect illegal activities are taking place. They're also unable to make arrests. Instead, they report any intelligence to the Kosovo police, and any action necessary is carried out by them.
No English. Usually, all smuggling, that usually happens between 1800 and midnight. So that's when we push out our guys into OPs, and we co-locate ourselves with the KP, the Kosovan police. So once we've got them with us, we're able to see something and get a direct action from there on. So
another issue facing Kosovo is organised crime. These KFOR patrols are trained to spot the signs of OCG activity, and when they see something that's suspicious, the soldiers report back to the Kosovo police.
So essentially, we've launched a GD patrol towards the ABL in a named area of interest for ourselves, which is likely tracks and areas that smugglers or any other illegal activity can conduct, avoiding checkpoints at the borders and things like that. So from there, what we'll do is look around for observation posts, basically to watch the route in and out, potential vehicles. We can pass that up to law enforcement, and then that can be dealt with correctly.
The information they are coming back in from their patrols and they're collecting has been recognised by the Commander KFOR as best practice and is being now fed directly to the Com KFOR's team.
The work on the ground is very much nuts and bolts infantry. Depending on the task, personnel are dropped into a location by helicopter and yomped from mountain to mountain by foot. A high level of fitness is a must. But when the task requires wheels, the troops are provided with civilian SUVs, as to patrolling military vehicles is thought to be too aggressive. It's all about keeping the peace, albeit the soldiers are heavily armed. The state of the road network in these remote parts of Kosovo mean the Yorkshire men and women have become adept at changing tyres. Did it just go all of a sudden, or?
Yeah, it just popped all of a sudden.
While we were embedded, problems arising from terrain and the suitability of these civilian vehicles was a recurring problem. It was said that most patrols incur problems just like this.
Fortune 20, Fortune 23 Bravo, that is my call sign now, back in, carrying on up to Bellabode, over.
Many of the personnel are on their first overseas deployment, like 18-year-old Billy, who only joined the regiment 9 months ago. What's it like being on your first operational tour?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm getting to do what like some people don't get to do. You know what I mean? I've just come out of training and I'm already getting like a medal. You know what I mean? Going and seeing the world.
I mean, it is literally what people join the army to do, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. So.
And just give me a little bit of your reflections on how this tour is going for you so far. I mean, you know, in the context of it being your first time.
I think it's going all right. Yeah. I haven't messed up yet, so that's quite good. And it's pretty interesting. Like the stuff we're doing out here, it's like everything you do through training, you're actually using.
It's a busy routine. The soldiers are making do with cramped living conditions in what is an austere environment. Judging by these facilities, it's hard to believe the KFOR mission has entered its 26th year. It all looks so temporary. Forces News understands there have been complaints about the living conditions for personnel here, which the chain of command has attempted to address.
Yeah, so as a Strategic Reserve Force, we are held at readiness and to be in country in 14 days from the UK to be on the ground. None of what we see right now and what we're living in would be here. So we are utterly reliant on those infantering skills, and actually it's not just infantering, the adaptability of a British Army soldier, the man and woman, to live out of our rucksack and grip bags, to sustain ourselves for this mission up to 7 days on rations and living out in the open. We're really fortunate when we come into this location, but we have got a tented camp provided by a contractor. There are some showers, running hot water, and enough for everyone to get a shower, which is being developed and improved constantly by the contractor.
On Sundays, there's time for a field service for those not on patrol.
The second is this: Christ have mercy, Christ have mercy. There is a deep spirituality which permeates the military. I remember a WO2 saying to me once that it's amazing how young lads start thinking about ultimate questions when they're about to go into a theatre of conflict. And so the army has, for generations, travelled with its clergy to provide that moral, spiritual and pastoral element. So there are people who are seeking after God, who are seeking meaning in life, and we're happy to help them on that journey. Obviously there'll be servicemen and women who are here already have a sort of deep Christian faith or faith in another world religion. And as chaplains, it's our duty to help facilitate the practice of faith as part of their day-to-day lives within the army.
The Royal Yorkshire Regiment is in Kosovo for about 8 weeks. The purpose of their time here is to prove their ability to deploy all the manpower and equipment needed to conduct operations in the country. The battalion is officially classed as the KFOR Strategic Reserve, and once back in the UK, they are eligible to be called back here at a moment's notice, should there be a worsening of relations between Kosovo and Serbia.
I have to say that the last years we are experiencing a time of polarization. I don't know, is it social media? I don't know, is it politicians being a little bit more populist than they used to be before? Certainly in Serbia, there's a new guy called Vučić, and he is a little bit more on the more nationalistic and echoing some of the Milosevic discourse. This is now the longest operating mission that NATO has anywhere in the world. But to tell the truth, things really were successful since then. British involvement in Kosovo is potentially one of the most successful military operations in history of Great Britain and NATO forces.
Do please be seated for the prayer of confession.
When we get back, we're very much looking forward to coming back together as a battalion, as one Our Yorks, and getting together and celebrating the end of what has been a really busy year for this battalion. I'm incredibly grateful to the men and women of One Our Yorks for their service and the professionalism throughout the year. They spent a lot of time away from their families, and it's been a tough, demanding year where they thrived in. I'm also incredibly grateful for the families in our support network who have enabled us to achieve so much this year.
When NATO troops received the order to move across the border, just a few kilometres from the forming up area, it started the biggest military convoy since World War II.
It's remarkable to think that 25 years on from war, NATO troops are still required to maintain peace in this part of the world. The soldiers carrying out that task don't view it as some sort of chore. Let's face it, the British Army is a shrinking force with more and more tasks being asked of it. Instead, they conduct their work to an unmissable high standard. Every step they take on the mountains, every wheel they change on patrol, every conversation they have with Kosovans is done so with complete professionalism. And for the men and women of the Royal Yorks, Britain's last remaining county regiment, every day spent here forms another chapter in their proud history. James Wharton, BFBS Forces News, Kosovo. Thanks for watching. For more from BFBS Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.